All right, good evening, everyone. How's it going tonight? This is Tom with North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. We are going live tonight with our guest, Khat Hansen, and she's in the back green room studio. I'm going to bring her on right now. And hey, everyone. Hey, Tracy. Hey, Sheila. How you doing? All right, I'm going to welcome Khat on soon. Here she is. Khat
Hi,
Hansen.
I'll better. See, I can do the twist.
The one and only Khat. There's only one Khat Hansen out there, so
Oh, thank goodness, huh?
glad to have you back, my friend. I know we've been talking back and forth, talking about doing a show together, and it's probably been about 2 months of just trying to figure it out. Times I finally got a good time to do it, and unfortunately, I was doing work at my house today and it wore me out. But I don't have, I'll never turn down doing a live stream with you, Khat. So even if I'm worn out, sore, busted back, knees busted up, it is what it is. Part of getting old.
Too good. That's part of getting old, I didn't expect to break ribs and do all that stuff, I really didn't, because who knows? Now I guess I'm fragile. Oh boy, where's my floppy hat and my parasol?
Well, at least you're not like Mr. Glass from what was it, Unbreakable? Not Unbreakable, the movie with
Mr. Glass.
Mr. Glass. Yeah, but the one before that, what was the movie before that with he came out in the end?
And then before that is
the first one that came out.
I have those.
Willis, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Unbreakable? Was that the call? Was it called?
Yeah, it's Unbreakable, Split, right. And then Glass.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you tell I don't like those? I really like them. I like the second one, where he's all the personalities. That's like
I didn't get to see that one yet. So speaking of personalities, speaking of personalities and stuff, what would you like to get started with tonight? I mean, I know we have a couple topics. What would you like to delve in first?
Let's hawk some books, okay?
Awesome.
This one's called The Smoky God. Okay, have you read this one? This one is beyond awesome, okay? It talks about venturing to the center of the earth back when there were Viking times. It tells the story of, I could never say the name, Snorri, and then I'm going to go Skavagavold, okay?
That's okay.
Okay, and it talks about these guys making this journey on their fishing vessel and being caught in a storm and then being taken to the center of, picked up by these giants who literally carried them into the center of the earth. Okay. And to me, it was fascinating for the simple fact, I know there's quite a few of you out there who look at my pictures and things. And one of my pictures that I have is of a three-legged being. Okay. And it's a big, hunky, hoary, hairy thing. Okay. And in this book, they talk about this island that they're passing, and they have these giant white three-legged creatures on this island that they used to go and ride on their backs and climb up to the top of this volcanic island and get the eggs from. So to me, I went and got this book after I had my discovery with my little three-legged guy, and he's not little. He's almost 10 feet tall.
Oh, gosh. What's the name of the book again?
This is called The Smoky God by Willis George Emerson.
I'm going to write that down and look into getting it from maybe Amazon, order it from Amazon Kindle if it's available.
Because it's really fascinating. There goes one of my dogs. Everybody gets to hear him today because he refuses to go out.
At least it's not a dog man scratching at your door.
Sheila Carr sent me some awesome I can never say the word, organite discs that you put around your home. And it's positive energy, and it keeps them from coming to my windows and banging on my doors. I have not had, but one time now since she sent them to me to beat on the back. I have bars, bars on my windows and things, and they like to try to rip them off. I thank God they're set in concrete, but that and the roof. I had to have the roof replaced because if I could show you guys, right above me is a place where they were scratching and dug through. And I loved what the contractor guy had to say about it. He said, I don't know what kind of rats you got up there. It's Arizona. We only have tree rats, And I said, well, why? What's it look like? He said, if you want to come up on the roof and look, there's just this big, ginormous spot where it's just completely ripped everything.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm like,
you don't want that.
No, I don't want those. And then the other one that I kind of wanted to talk with you about, because you know about this stuff too, and that awesome video you sent, is by Charles Hapgood. And he is no dummy. He was a very famous professor, wrote for NASA and other people. His Charles Hapgood, and his book is called Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this your typical college book, it doesn't have a lot of pictures. It's got graphs and things in it, but what it does have on the front, and I can't really show it very well, is he has copies of the Piri Reis maps, and they show Antarctica without ice.
Oh gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it shows how they all of this writing here is in Phoenician. I can't even get it over to the camera. I'm terrible. Anyway, on the book, it shows all this little writing and stuff. It was all done in Phoenician, and they thought that the Piri Reis maps were gone forever and ever, and because the library at Alexandria had burned down,
right?
They thought that they were gone. Well, they found a copy from a man who was running through the streets during the Inquisitions, and the man was running with this giant map, and they took it from him and confiscated it. And those are the maps that they say that Christopher Columbus used to try and find the North American continent.
Right.
So, but the fascinating thing here is that, okay, you have to remember this is over 12,000 years ago, okay? He is showing on these maps, and they've been radiocarbon dated and things, okay? They're showing on this map elephants in Antarctica. They're showing rivers. It shows lakes, streams, fig trees, and it also shows rivers that actually kind of go down inside the earth.
Oh gosh, okay. That's awesome.
So this is one of my passions here, because many people who listen to me know that the reason that I started looking for my history is because growing up, what I was being taught in school didn't match with what I was being told by the elders, okay? And one of the famous stories of the Chata people is that we come from Naniweo. Naniweo is a mound. And out of this mound, we came from the center of the earth. Okay? There were different levels in the earth, and there were different beings, cryptids, monsters, whatever you want to call them. And this is what I was raised on, were these tales. I don't want to call them tales because they're history to me, because they've all been proven. Mm-hmm. Okay, so to listen to a science teacher tell me, that we come from across the Bering Bridge, I'm just sitting here going, no, that's not where we come from. This hole, this went down to the center of the earth. And there were different levels. There were these mean, malevolent little things that we called the little tiny people. And they were angry men, basically, is what we called them, angry men. Okay. And these guys fit with your description of the Darrows. And I don't know how many of your listeners know.
I remember the Darrows from when Brett and Solon mentioned them. They have like a long nose, almost like an elephant, and they live underground. And they'll capture people and keep them living with them for ages almost, and take energy from you and feed off of you. Not necessarily your flesh, but they'll feed off your energy.
Yes, vibrations.
Yes.
Okay, and they also broadcast. Okay, here's the guy that you just were talking about, Shaver. He ran into them before the big UFO flap ever started. Okay, and they took him underground and showed him UFOs stacked. You know, like you would stack plates in a rack. You know, just like this at an angle. These silver discs all the way across in this enormous hangar underground. And he told them, what are those? You know, and they said, those are for us. We fly through your skies with them. You can't see us when we're up there. We're invisible, but we beam beams to you people. I know this sounds nuts, but this is what he was told before any of this was ever popular. I mean, the thought of thought projecting and you know, all these things. And this was actually occurring. This occurred before I can never remember his name, the guy in Seattle, Washington, who first saw the flying saucer and said it skipped like a flying saucer, like a disc. Okay.
Yeah, his name's in the back of my head. I remember there's so many documentaries with him, the first guy to capture it. And he was actually a pilot, a plane pilot. He captured 3 of them in a row. Yeah. Can't think of his name. I'm sure someone will type it in. I'm sure Brian Bowden knows his name, because Brian Bowden, he's the encyclopedia on feet. So he's the man.
Please. But this is before he ever said anything, you know, before it occurred with him. So then you start thinking about, well, if they're able to fly up there, nowadays we see like on YouTube and we see on the news and things where people say that they flash in and then they'll flash out, and they have like a mirror coating on them, these UFOs. Okay, so these are what the Darrows were doing. And they were saying that they were doing it to us because first of all, it was an experiment. They wanted the Earth, the top surface of the Earth, for themselves. They wanted to be able to come out of the caves, you know, and come up here. But we had to make it, now this is weird, we had to make it so that it was habitable to them. Okay. And so that means, according to them, it meant pollution, darkness, acid rain, things like that, things that were bad for us humans, made it good for industrial byproducts, made it good for them. So there's your first weird one. Okay.
That's strange. I mean, they always, you know, you always hear about them, you know, these alien beings trying to use us to make a hybrid so their species can continue on this planet. So that's why they did like 8 to 10 generations to get the perfect hybrid clone to mixing the DNA with ours to get their species to live on this Earth. And apparently they can live among us without us even knowing. That's how perfect they've mastered this genetic cloning. So it's just strange, because the aliens can't live here because of our atmosphere, but their clones, after being so many times made, you know, made in a lab with the genetic modification, they can stay after, you know, being there with us and live no problem.
Exactly. And it's strange. The more you dig into this inner world and the beings that live inside of it, the creepier it gets. And I live in Arizona, and right here in back of me at the edge of my mountain right here are so many tunnels. Okay. They are not man-made tunnels. They're a cave. You start going into the cave and you end up either going for miles and miles, or it'll dead end after half a mile or whatever. But these are not caves. And the Native Americans that are here, are not man-made caves. These are caves that are natural. And the Native Americans here say the same thing about them. to stay out of them, because you have reptilian, what we call snake people, we have ant people, we have moon eyes, we have all different types of beings that live right at the surface level, or shortly small down below the surface level. And then as you go deeper, there are certain caves that will take you deeper inside the earth, where you're going to run into these white-haired giants that are, I don't even understand them. I mean, seriously, I have never seen one. Okay, I've never seen one of these things. But I have heard some really creepy, freaky stuff when I'm inside these caves. Okay.
Wow. Real quick, I have a question from Penny G. I guess she was asking about your organ. She was saying, is your organ from Naima and Tivan in Morocco from their website, ftwproject.com by chance? If so, I've ordered their organ and shunjite pendant and bracelet. So I guess she just wanted to know if it was from a certain website that you
I
have.
I don't know,
It
because
was given to you by somebody, right?
yeah,
Didn't Sheila?
yeah,
Sheila gave it to you. So,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I don't know where she got it from. I just know it works. I mean, it works miracles. So I'm gonna tell everybody, get that if you can, because it works. And I don't have them beating my house down. I mean, it gets really frustrating. Um, the other thing that you and I were talking about is hearing things when you're underground. Okay, my people ran into Shampway. Those are the red-eyed beings, the red-eyed monsters. I have many pictures of them. Okay, and human beings, we don't have the rods and cones in our eyes to give the shine that you will get off of a deer or something,
Right.
unless it's that flash, from a
Camera.
yeah, it's that.
An old Polaroid shot will do that.
Yeah, but we can't just make it happen. It has to be a flash. Whereas these inner earth beings have the ability to generate their own bioluminescence. Okay. And I kind of think that's interesting, because you have bioluminescence that happens in the oceans as well, for beings, creatures that live down deep where it's so dark, pitch black. Okay. And as a little kid, I used to watch, it had these reptiles, slee stacks. I don't know if anybody knows what those are, but they went to the center of the earth, and there were dinosaurs there, and these monsters that used to run around, and their eyes looked like giant fly eyes to me. But everybody used to tell me that no, it's because they could shoot the beams out of their eyes and things. So I went to the elders and asked them. I said, what is this? And they said, oh, those are snake people. That's what you're seeing, are snake people on the cartoon. And I thought, wow, people know about snake people too, and they put them in cartoons. Okay, this is cool. So I had to watch it, because I thought other people knew about them, but apparently they don't. You will run into dogmen that have bioluminescent eyes. You run into birds that come up out of the earth. I can't remember the name of the bird that comes from where is it from? From like Papua New Guinea, and it flies, and it has bioluminescence in its chest. And when it flies, the people see it flying through the night sky, and it's a bioluminescence. Wow. So there are many. It's not just one culture. There's many cultures.
Then you got the Thunderbird / Mothman thing too. Has been red eyes, and the Thunderbird. Some occasional sightings have shown red eyes while they're flying. 10, 12-foot wingspan. Almost as big as a small Cessna plane. These things are, and they'll swoop people up out of the sky. I mean, you know about the Thunderbird. You have the native passed down, legends of the Thunderbird. You know all about it.
Yeah, my youngest daughter, will not go out. We call them Haloa Nam. And during a thunderstorm when she was in the 6th grade. This is my special daughter. She was watching the lightning, and she said, "Oh, the eggs." That's what we believe. The lightning and the thunder is the eggs rolling back and forth across the sky until they land in the nest. And she said, "Oh, the eggs are rolling. The eggs are rolling." And I was laughing at her. I said, "You're so silly." And all of a sudden, I was behind her, and she completely just froze. I said, "What's wrong?" And she says, "Look." And she closed the curtain. I said, "I can't see if you don't open the curtain." So she opened the curtain a little bit, and she says, "Do you see it? It's across the highway." And there was this huge, enormous bird that was sitting there. And she freaked. I mean, she got very scared. She ran upstairs to her room, turned off all the lights. And I sat there for maybe 10 minutes watching it. And it every time it would turn its head, it was like at night when a flashlight will hit the light glass on a house window or something, you get that reflective just real fast, and then it would come and go, come and go.
See this question right here
We got
on the screen? Can you see it?
Yeah. Yes, they are coming out of the caves. Yes, they come out of the caves, and there are those that dig themselves out from underground. Here in Arizona, we have a huge crack, and they're not knowing what's causing the crack. And when I went down and was looking at it with one of the professors from the local university here, we looked at it, and he said, "That is the weirdest looking thing I've ever seen. It's a crevice." And I said, "Yeah, but do you see the scratch marks along it?" And I said, "There's something coming up out of it."
That's
So,
wild. Well, we were just talking about things underground. We were talking about these giants being cast underground for eternity, all four corners of the earth, and they're underground. They're really said under trees, under whatever. They plant a tree under an evil
yeah,
entity, and that's where tree beings come about.
yeah. And also, too, the giants are locked away in them.
Giants locked away. Yeah.
Yeah, they're locked away in them. And I find it interesting in that people are capturing more and more videos of them coming out of the trees. You'll see videos on YouTube. I've had a bunch sent to me where the trees are moving and walking, and it's freaking people out. They're not, but it says, and I have never asked you whether or not I can quote on scripture on your show.
Right ahead.
Okay, but it says in the Bible that you need to be looking for signs and wonders. Well, if that isn't a sign and that isn't a wonder, I've got news for you. I don't know what is. Okay, because for a tree to pick itself up and walk and move like they're doing, then I'm sorry, I was reading what this says here in the UK with permission. See, they lock them off. I have a story about that in Tennessee. They there's a lot. People think that the earth is solid. Remember, we all go to school and we learn that there's a crust, the mantle, the
Crust,
core,
mantle, core. Yep.
Yeah, remember that? Okay. So what they don't teach us is that this earth is actually honeycombed. Okay, and our government does use it to their advantage. I mean, they use submarine training, etc., to go from point A to point B. Okay, they use it. So to think that we're just living on like a solid red hard rubber ball.
Well, that's the other thing. The thing, we live on a ball. That's the biggest lie in the world.
Yeah, that's the one.
500 years ago, they were teaching everybody, and everybody knew the world was not round. But we'll get into that. We'll get all into that. So
people need to understand that the things that we're taught, that we've been taught for the last 500 years, as you said, is a reset. Because I think they got to the point where they were like, people know too much stuff, so we have to dumb them down a little bit so that we can keep control of it. They can. Yes, they can interact with us, Sam Michelle. Yeah.
Yeah, Sheila. Got one thing. Yeah, speaking of Dogman in Cobb County, Tennessee, there's been two cover-ups that have been going around the internet for months and months and months. But this, the lady, I can't think of the lady's name. I've been hearing, and the guy, his name is Charlie. They keep trying to pin it on this guy named Charlie, and they even gave him the nickname of Charlie Dogman, which I think is hilarious.
Oh my heck. Are
Yeah,
you
it's wow, and they tried to euthanize one of his dogs, and the lady that was killed, the second victim was a lady, and two dogs were standing by her body, licking her wounds while she
Yeah.
was still like injured before she passed, and I think they tried to get the DNA from those dogs and some other dogs, and they still couldn't find what the DNA that attacked her, what was in her blood. So that's an ongoing process, but they're trying to pin this stuff on this guy that lives nearby named Charlie, and apparently they busted him for having like marijuana in his trailer. So that's all they could get on him because he has a past. So they're just trying to make him the patsy and twist twist the whole agenda, the whole narrative
Sure.
on something else.
It's like a magician. You play with this over here, get everybody's attention over here while you're
Yeah.
actually doing over here.
Behind the man in the curtain at Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
Entity of Tisharnia.
Tisharnia. No, I don't think I have. No.
Okay, so
Alice.
you were speaking. What were we speaking about before I was throwing questions at you? I'm just doing a little bit of everything at the same time.
Yeah.
So if that's too much, we can hold off on questions till later on. So
I like this because this way it kind of touches a little bit, I think, on everybody.
it's full interactive. It's fully interactive chat and a teaching with you because I mean, there's nothing better than learning things because the world is a learning planet. It's a paranormal planet. It's teaching. These things are several entities, dimensions, portals. I mean, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And they come here, they go, they come and go, and they do what they want.
That's it. You just hit it on the head. They come and go as they want. I posted a thing on my Facebook page, and I know some people out there don't have Facebook. Charles Dogman on Facebook, it says. It talks about, does the Earth have a magnetic sleeve runway? I called it a hallway around, to allow the different dimensions beings to come and go. And I believe that. It's what I teach,
Sure. I believe that too.
Here's a question that you've put up here. I'm finding this really interesting because I've never studied Luciferian, and I find that name really fascinating. So your listeners know what these things are. I do not. So I'm kind of a ditz that way. I'm not a Bigfoot researcher. When people start throwing names at me for Bigfoot researchers, I can name like this many. Okay. I don't.
Well, you stick with the basics, what you know. You keep it simple because that's what you know and what you're used to and what you're around. But Luciferians are pretty much the occultist, devil worshipping, Satan loving, pedophile, child trafficking association that hides within certain entities of our United States higher powers, I should say, because I don't want to say too much. Last time I talked too much or someone talked too much, people get, I'll disappear, you'll disappear, this video disappear, and people start getting followed or whatever, and then you start sending me messages on your phone and they don't get sent, and then if I send you a message, it doesn't get sent, and so on. So I know how the process goes. You gotta just
so
you gotta have safe words.
Yeah. I try to tell people this, okay? I'm not going to speak on a subject I don't know something about. So when they start telling me things about like Luciferian and other researchers and things, I can't speak to their truth. I can only speak to what I know, and I'm not going to lie to you and make you go, oh, yay, I love Kat. She's got to understand this. I don't care. I'm not here for that. Um, yeah, these entities have been on Earth for millions of years before man. Yeah, that's what I teach because the easiest thing for something to be set down in is stone. Okay, if you put it on wood, if you put it on paper, if you put it on a mud tablet, it's gonna deteriorate.
Mm-hmm.
Die. Period, and that knowledge is gone. But if you put it into stone,
Yeah.
it's hard. I mean, it lasts for
Whether it's
thousands.
stone, clay tablets,
Yeah.
it's just basically the Oak Island thing. People that found a lot of stuff with the Oak Island. I wouldn't say the curse, but the whole process of investigating and trying to find this so-called Knights of Templar treasure that's 100 something feet down. A lot of these things that they've been finding, there's markings marked in stone for hundreds and hundreds of years, and that's how they're able to find certain things because it's marked in stone. You put it in a tree, tree's going to grow, it's going to die, it's going to keel over, and it's going to be gone. And it'll turn into paper, toilet paper, cardboard box, but a stone's not going anywhere. Stone's going to be there forever, everlasting. Yeah.
Forever and ever. And speaking of that, I'm going to speak to something that I do know about. People talk about giants all the time, okay? And they talk about them wearing copper armature.
Armor.
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 Yeah. They've got the swords, they've got everything. Okay. I myself have dug up in the desert here in Death Valley. We have property there and we dig. Copper plates that were so old, were so old that they were like glass. And when I started digging and pulling them out, they shattered.
Oh, wow.
So that tells you that even something put in metal will not last if it is exposed to something corrosive. So I find that interesting. I used to work for the New World Foundation for many, many years, and that's out of BYU. And there was a gentleman there that was my boss. His name, I'm just going to call him H. Nibley. Okay. He's the reason I left the field because I was taking him things that we would dig up in Central and South America with castings made out of stone with pictures carved into them, engraved into them, with humans, with dinosaurs. And he would say, lady, quit bringing me this stuff. Well, I radiocarbon date. And he's, no, we're not doing this. We're not even going to do the patina on them. We're not going to do this. We're just not doing it. And he hid it so well that I finally left. Came down here to the Southwest and started pulling things up, showing that there were one of the things for the Grand Canyon is a petroglyph of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, mud fossils. Those are fascinating to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Giant footprints. Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it says in the Bible, it says, and other books. Hi, Lisa. They say that everything was bigger back then because we had a veil over this planet. So there was no stopping it from growing.
Not only the veil, the oxygen. They say the oxygen intake. There was so much more oxygen that it can endure larger life. So that's another reason why the people were larger. You had, the giants, the animals were so much bigger because they were getting so much more oxygen, making their body it can engulf more size and mass. So makes sense.
And the veil was put there to hold it all in, so that it didn't, leave through the ozone layer, and head out and go and do whatever, so I find it fascinating when people point that out to me, and they say, oh, well, something couldn't live underground. Actually, if you go underground and take oxygen levels with you, you will find out that it is some of the most pure air unless you hit like a specific area where they've been mining or it's got sulfur in it and things. But if you're in a habitable zone, it is some of the most pure air that you will find.
Just like water too. Water from down below so many feet is it's so pure. It's healthy for you. Way better for you than tap water. I mean, anything's better than tap water. So I
Anything.
wouldn't even go there. You want to
No.
be dumb. You want to be dumbed down to the basic gen pop of society than drink tap water. But if you want to
Drink tap water.
let your mind enhance and increase all that, you don't drink tap water.
No. And we were talking before we ever started here about Himalayan pink salt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as I said, I have a special needs daughter. Yep, right there. And we've got those at my house. And the easiest thing that I have ever given her is a quarter of a teaspoon in a glass of Kool-Aid of the pink Himalayan salt. You want to talk about IQ? That day she's bright-eyed, she's bushy-tailed. Let's go do this. Let's, do whatever we're going to do. You can put it into juice. You can put it in. And why is that? Because it's all minerals. It's got things in them in the correct proportions that our bodies need. And this is things that are dumbed down. Yep. This is things that are dumbed down for us, and you got told, Antonio. My house, you're in trouble if you get called that.
That's one of the viewers, Antonio Scalacchi. He's from the UK, so okay. He's in the chat. She's just replying back to him. Oh, we got Richard Brown. Hey, Richard Brown, what's going on? Haven't seen you in a while. He's from Trinidad Tobago. He was on a couple months ago talking about the Marine Kingdom and mermaids and the powers that they've manifested and give to other people to get fame and fortune. And then there's a little thing where if they give you the power of fame and fortune, you got to give them something back, which usually is sperm from a man, and they'll give you all the technology that you want, but you still have to give them what they want, and if you don't, they will somehow kill you. So pretty wild story, and I believe it. I mean, it's intense.
Believe that. Can I ask him a quick question?
Yeah, and not only that too. I mean, if you remember Aquaman, that movie Aquaman, there's so much disclosure in that movie about mermaids and the Marine Kingdom. It's like if you have an open mind, you'll get it all. But go ahead, Kat. Ask Richard what you need.
My people have a legend of the moon falling down. And somebody told me once, years ago in college, that Trinidad has an ancient legend of when the old moon fell down and was here. It landed in the ocean, and we had to wait for a while for a new one to be put up. Do you know this legend?
Here's a question for you, Kat, from Bushwhacking with Rooster.
Oh, boy. Yes, I do. And I will tell you a quick story that will make your hair raise. And I don't know if you'll ever want to go in again.
Weirdest thing you've experienced in a cave?
I walked into a cave. I'm not afraid of snakes at all. At all. They are my totems. Okay. I'm not afraid of them. Digging in Death Valley. Digging. And I come across the copper plates that I was talking about, the glass plates. Started pulling them out, and there was a tunnel that went off from there. A couple days later, dig that out. As we're getting further and further back in there, I can hear this sound that sounds like snake scoots, shh, 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 as it's going across the sand. Then the smell hits me. Okay. It is. Have you ever been to the zoo and gone into the reptile house?
Yeah. The smell. Smell scales and like salty scales and just that snake, that reptile smell. I know what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. Started smelling that, but I could not find it anywhere. And then I started hearing this weird I swear, language that was being whispered, spoken with the same hissing sound. And I didn't know at the time about something called Nagas, so I had no knowledge of them. I told my partner that I was digging with, I said, we got to get out of here. I can't take this. And I don't get scared. I do not get scared at all, like over stuff like that. And he was like, why? And I said, you need to go down there and you need to go smell. So he went down about 10 feet and he said, oh no, we're out of here. So for days, we kept hearing this sound and this smell. Okay, now me being me, I want to know what's going on. So I go over 30 feet and start digging down, trying to intersect where we've dug, okay, down. I hit nothing. I just hit our tunnel. There was no tunnel, no nothing for anything to be down there and to hear this. And we would sit there with the campfire at night and you could hear this sound, okay? And I swear it was a language. I swear it was some kind of a language that I was hearing, you know. It
could have been some kind of reptilian, gathering going on that maybe they were kind of somehow making themselves unseen to you,
Yeah, it's scary.
He says, oh yeah, the Hindus have that legend here. So he responded. So I don't know if he knows more. What is ambush site?
As an ambush site, they can swim. I've told the story about when, as a kid, going through the swamps, and I would sit in my little pirogue. It's a type of boat that sits real low to the water, and they would come and they would tap on the bottom of it and put their hands over, you know.
Almost sounds like with the ambush thing. It's like something that you'd see like in a Rambo movie, like when Rambo jumps out of the water and like comes behind the guy and slices his throat with a knife. I think that's probably what he's talking about. Maybe if a deer's like in a little pond or a little lake and a Sasquatch goes underwater, if he like bum rushes it real quick and like attacks it and just jumps on the deer and gets it that way, like an ambush. Maybe that's probably what he's talking about. I've never heard of nothing like that, but I've seen a video. On, I don't know how long it's been going around, but there's an older video of someone walking over a bridge and you can actually see a Sasquatch, part of a Sasquatch going on a deer, like drowning a deer underwater next to this bridge.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've seen them too where they look like a floating mat, like just garbage, and didn't realize what it was until about 10 minutes later when it was all of a sudden the mat kind of floated over and then stood up. Then I was like, oh,
okay. A 10-foot, 1,000-pound mat, right? Sounds like there might be a second heaven messing around. Yeah, could be. All right, Richard's back. He said go ahead, read it up.
Oh, cool. They talk about the moon coming down to the sea and disappearing under the water. But as for the return, I'm not too sure. See, my people have this legend where the old moon came to the earth. It fell down into the ocean,
Well, I mean, a lot of people claim that the moon's not even the moon. It's like an alien satellite, monitoring us throughout, and that's why apparently there's bases on the moon as well that we don't know about, that they have secret military bases, and it's not really a moon. It's like, it's just something floating around in the solar system, and they built bases on it. They have these, giant technology telescopes on them and so on. So it's amazing. I want to talk about Bird and, we were talking about earlier before we went live. We were talking about Admiral Byrd, because that was pretty cool. You had some information on that, so that was pretty awesome.
I find him fascinating. Our government, okay, let's be real clear on this. Our government funded him to go to.
And this was after World War II, or was it before it was over? I forget. Before
it was over. Okay, they funded him. Our own government funded him to go up to the North Pole, Antarctica area. Okay, they funded him. And if you go on YouTube, sometimes they take it down, but a lot of times they'll leave it up. you can find where he actually was doing the talk show circuits, like they do now, like What's My Line and things like that.
Oh
Back
yeah.
when you were able to smoke on TV
It
and
was
things.
it was 47. That's when it happened. So
Yeah,
it was
there we
after the
go.
war. It was after the war was over. Yeah, because I remember it was like a lot of the Nazis fled, and they were trying to find out what was
Right.
going on. And there was, I guess, because of satellite imagery at that time, possibly um, there was a lot of stuff going on with intel that a lot of things were going on in Antarctica. So that's why they sent him there, because they knew something was going on, but they didn't know what. So they sent him a fleet. Was it like 14 ships full of planes, weapons, cannons? I mean,
And they got
artillery shells.
in a fight with these things. I mean, seriously, they're talking about, this is not your dingbat off the street, who's been doing drugs for X number of years. This is Admiral Byrd, okay?
Navy admiral of the U.S. Navy. I
Well,
mean,
well decorated,
yeah.
and he's sending messages home telling them, listen, we're under attack. We're being, from these ships that fly and come out and hit
Coming out
us.
of the water.
Yeah.
Coming out of the water, hitting us with lasers, and we got 3 ships left, and we don't know what to do.
Yeah, help. And our government wants to say, never happened. Never happened. Don't know what you're talking about.
Well, he came back. He came back before he did like a televised national, like a broadcasted, observation. He was on some other shows. I don't know if it was in Europe or before it was even like televised on the mainstream media, but he was interviewed about what he saw, and if you wanted to, you could tell people everything that, talk about that. That was pretty amazing, the stuff that he saw before he got attacked.
Yeah, before he gets attacked. I mean, there are cities, okay, and this is something I never even got to address with you, okay, Tom, but he saw perpetual lighting. They saw perpetual lighting that did the whole cities, under ice, underground, whatever you want to call it. Okay, we found, well, not we, but conquistadores, when they took over Central and South America, there are stories, I mean, books in the National Library of their records saying that they found these perpetual lighting machines, the whole cities that were lit by these big balls. Sound familiar? Same thing that was down under, that Admiral Byrd found under the ice. Okay, we've got streets, we've got housing, we've got people, we've got orchards.
Energy.
Yeah. And yet we're being told none of this occurred.
Nope.
I mean,
nothing happened here. Keep your mouth shut before you get court-martialed. Sign this non-disclosure agreement and don't mention it again.
But and then there's that aspect of it too. You and I were saying that, how scary is it that when all these scientists started talking about it back then, mysterious deaths started occurring, disappearances, people vanished, people jumped out of hotel rooms magically.
What was the one guy that was in charge of one of these the missions? I can't think of his name. It's in the back of my head. He was thrown out of a psychiatric hospital window.
Yep.
He was the director of one of these groups, and he was gonna be become a whistleblower. And before they can get to him, they threw him in a mental asylum, and they threw him off the top building. And they said he committed suicide, but he got thrown off that roof. He didn't do it.
There was no way for him to do it. I mean,
barred windows.
There's another book that came out in the 90s. It was called On a Pale Horse. And it's by a whistleblower type guy. And he started talking. He had a whole series of them. And he died. He was exposing truths, and he died. I'm got a story or question, I guess, is Nazis sent to Antarctica in 1938.
Yeah, that's 1938 when it happened. Yeah. That's when the Nazis started to build. They started building their own Uber,
the base there.
Yeah.
Their world where they were going to escape to. And that's like what I was saying here on the front of this book. When you dig up the Piri Reis maps, you can go online and look them up. You see there are elephants, palm trees, fig trees, pomegranate trees,
That book is insane. I mean, that shows Antarctica before it was covered in ice. I mean,
yeah, you can't deny it, but yet they want to say that it doesn't exist. Well, I got news for you. You can't deny something that's right there in your face and you have a hard copy of it.
and what's also funny is we were talking about earlier, that documentary that I said, the history of the Earth, being the flat Earth video that's 5 hours long. I talked about, they mentioned in that video that there was also in America cities that were powered by these huge light spectacles, and fueled by energy with water underneath the buildings, and water vibration movement giving it energy to fuel the lights on these cities, but no one wants to talk about it.
I will. I'll give you one that'll blow your mind. Go to the city Teotihuacan down in South America.
Mm-hmm.
It has water that goes through one of the pyramids there, okay? And it goes all the way through, and they can never understand why in the world the temple, it goes through the temple and goes under it. Well, then they started digging up mica sheets, okay? To have electricity, you need mica. Mica is an insulator, okay? Yeah. It'll stop. So once you realize that this water flowing through this bottom half of this pyramid, and I'm wrong, it's the pyramid of the moon down to the pyramid of the sun. It's a big, long causeway. Once it gets rolling, it gets going faster and faster. Then you have electricity. Okay. And this mica would keep you from being electrocuted. It's a conductor, so it'll keep you safe. So if you think about this, why would they need this? They need it because they need a whole city. They need to power a whole city. It's just like the pyramids in Egypt. If you go through there and you look at the ceiling, the only thing that you're ever going to find in the tunnels of the Great Pyramids there is soot. And it's not even the correct amount of soot that you would figure people that didn't have technology would use for lighting. Okay, if you were to light torches and line the inside of these pyramidal halls, then you're going to get just like cakes and cakes and cakes of soot, right? Yeah. But it's not that. The only reason you have soot is from people in later times walking through there with their torches after it had been abandoned and dug up and things. Okay, so these people were obviously using some form of electricity. Okay, you've got Lehrer jars, which are a jar that has a core in it, and they were using acidic beverages like wine and stuff to go inside of it to produce electricity, which they use for electroplating, lighting buildings, etc. Things like that. It's very, very strange that we have all this ancient knowledge, but yet we're not told.
Dumb down and keep it hidden, because they don't want us to, knowledge is power. If they keep us dumbed down, they will be able to have domain over us. But if we're smarter and we use our knowledge and we keep that power, they can't have domain over us because we know more. We know what they don't want us to know. So just the way it is.
Yeah, and then I'm not sure which book it's in. One of the ancient books talks about the pillars of heaven. And it has, I think it's the Egyptians. They talk about the pillars of heaven, and they are literally the four corners of the earth that are held up by these pillars. Okay? Nobody knows what these pillars are, but yet the earth is flat, and these pillars are portrayed as holding up the heavens above. So, yeah, there you go. Firmament.
That's all it is.
It's different because they're trying so hard to push this rhetoric onto us, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. The Baghdad capacitor, the Baghdad battery. It's the electric bulb. That's
yeah.
that they did back in Egypt. They call it the Baghdad battery. They were able to power up, light up these under the pyramids. They didn't have the electricity we have today. They had their own electricity.
No,
He's
and
right.
it's funny to me to run into people that say, "Oh, well, they had these mirrors." That, if you've ever watched the movie with Brendan Fraser, where they
Yeah,
push
the
the
mummy.
mirror,
They do the
and
mirrors and it spots the sun and it keeps reflecting the sun back and forth and shooting it all
okay,
around.
how's that work at night? Please, somebody explain that to me,
Yeah.
because I've never seen a moon.
They'll say the moon does it, but the moon ain't going to do that. That's just what the sun does. You can't.
Oh, it's not. We
Yeah.
are suffering from memory loss. Yes, we are. Um, and Tom brought up a really interesting subject before we ever got on here about thousands. What was it? 500 years ago, maybe.
500 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, where there were only children that were doing the there's a large amount of children. You go ahead,
Oh,
Tom, talk about it.
19, I think it was before 1900 to 1850s. Between that and 1900, there was a mass population of children, and they were being. I mean, there was adopt kids all over the country. They were shipping kids from Europe over here, vice versa, and there was not many adults around. And
No,
if you think about it, there are all these industrial factories, mills, textiles, you name it. They all had children working for them. There was bare minimal adults. There was bare minimal adults as parents. That being said, it seemed like there was a great reset where a lot of the adult population died, and the was reset for the children, were the next generation to take over. That's why we had these kids working in factories. It wasn't because they were poor; it was because they had nobody to work in these factories, and
right.
that's what they had working because that's all that was available at the time because there wasn't
Yeah.
enough adults.
And see, and that fits in with history, where people have asked me when I'm teaching history at times at school, they'll say, "I don't understand how some 10-year-old kid could get on a ship and come over here to America without his parents, and being able to find an apartment, find a job, and do all this stuff, and then it does kind of leave a hole there, because you're wondering, 10-year-old kid, 11-year-old kid, but yet if you go through the historical facts, then that's what it is. I mean, you can trace the boat tickets, the ship tickets that were, bought, and they were bought by little kids coming over here, and they never saw their parents again. A lot of times, they bought a ticket for America and came over to start a new life. That's why people got married when they were 12, 13 years
12,
old.
13, even younger than that. And it was just that's what they did. They didn't know better. Not that it wasn't bad. It's just they didn't. There was nothing else going on. You had to start a family, and 12, 13, that was good enough age at that time.
It is, and it's funny because when I teach at the schools, they when I show them the ceremonial costumes, that my people wear, we have a bit with the feather. If you wear the feather in your hair, if there's two feathers off to this side, then it means you're available. And I made it a point when my girls were all growing up and I was at the schools teaching, as soon as they hit the age of 11, guess what? On Native American month, they wore those feathers on that side of the hair, and people would ask them, "What's that?" And they'd all say, "Oh my God, my mom thinks I'm getting married." I was like, "No, it's just what we believe." My own aunt got married when she was 12. I mean, we look at it now, and they're like, "Can't do this." Or we're talking about Luciferians.
Yeah. Just giving more details.
I'm fascinated, but I'm a little freaked out by that.
Yeah, I mean it goes deep. I mean, if you remember back in the early '80s, do you remember the Finders Club or the Finders Group? I think it was called the Finders Group. Well, I've watched a really good documentary on it. It was a cult, a Finders cult. That's what it was. They were taking kids. They were pronouncing themselves as like easygoing, almost like hippies, giving kids a better way to live. But they had that these top executive profile government people funding it, and they were taking kids. They had this huge compound in Virginia that they bought all this land. They were taking kids back and forth in vans and carting them back and forth, and all it was a child trafficking front. But it started back in the 80s, and I think something happened in Florida where a girl looked like she was disgruntled, and she yelled for the police to help her. That being said, they started a small investigation on it. Within a week, the investigation was dropped, and nothing was done about it.
Wow.
Because it went on the government level so high that they couldn't. There was nothing they could do because it just got blown off as nothing. So they didn't.
See,
Really,
here's
really good documentary. If I could find the name of it, I'll send you the link. But it was really good.
post that up because I think a lot of people could.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. See, I have like Amazon Prime. I got Hulu. I got Gaia. I got Discovery Plus, and I mean, I don't even really watch TV no more. Barely, I'm watching all that all the time. You know, the regular TV is just garbage anyway. And there's a couple series I watch, but when it comes to that news, I stick to where the real news is at, and I don't really watch it on TV because they just if you watch the news here, I guarantee if the news where I am is the same news as where you're at, and they're just pushing the same agenda, and they're probably saying the same exact words too, and it's almost like a mirroring thing that they're all doing to get you brainwashed, and I won't, not going to be a part of that.
Not going to be a part of that. See, and here's something that's to me is brainwashing. Before I lived here in Arizona, I lived in Nevada, and every day it was required. It was required that my daughters would sit down and watch an hour of news before. And it had to be CNN. It couldn't be anybody else. It had to be CNN. Okay. And I thought, why? I don't even let my kids watch this. I don't watch the news that much because it's scary, it's evil, and things going on are wrong. Why would I subject a little 11, 12-year-old kid to this every day, before school so that they get to start the day off cruddy, And this teacher said that it was best that they learned how to handle it then before they got to be too old.
That's weird because when I was in school, they made us do current events when I was in middle school, and you had to either watch the news or read a newspaper and bring in some article of something, and you had to talk about it the next day. Like it was once a week, and it's almost like they were doing like a narrative of my generation to start it, and then now it's pushed back so strong that it's just completely brainwashed the next generation that's going on now. It's sad, but if you don't fall into that, that mustering of the MK Ultra, brainwaves over the airwaves, the boob tube, you don't have to worry about it.
Well, here's something that's weird. I have not ever had much experience with people that hear voices, that are schizophrenic. Okay. And when I do come across them in the past, I've always worked with them to heal them. I had a neighbor in Nevada who swore, and she had documentation. This is what freaked me out. From the time she was 18 years old, she worked in Washington, and she had documentation where her bosses, her senator guy had taken her in and paid for fillings. Okay, she said once she got the first filling, she started hearing things. Then the second filling came. Then it was like, and her name was I want to say, I may be wrong. It's been so long, Olivia or Olivet or something like that. Anyway, wasn't too sure whether she was kind of out there or if she was struggling from schizophrenia, but the more that she started telling me these things, and then she went up to the attic in her house and started coming down with work orders for her teeth, work orders for a plate to be put in her head. I said, what did you do to have a plate put in your head? And she said, I wasn't in any accident. I said, well, you had to have been in some kind of an accident. Nope, wasn't. She brought me all her files. This woman went to great lengths to show me that her doctor that she was seeing there in Las Vegas she never suffered a head injury. He didn't know what the plates were there for.
That's crazy. It's almost like they were using it as an antenna to send signals to her or messages to her.
She swore that's what they were doing, and she would just beg me to please make it stop.
Makes
And
sense.
the only time I could make her stop was out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
So
no antennas bouncing off to get from her to the desert. It's just a dead zone, perfect dead zone. So just like if you got a cell phone and there's no cell phone towers and you're in the desert, your cell phone's not going to work because you're in a dead zone. So it makes sense.
yeah,
She was like a human telecast, cell phone because
it
of
was
that.
weird. It was weird because all of a sudden she
Carlito.
really wanted me. Oh, there you go. She wanted someone to believe her, so she would literally call me on the phone. Okay, she didn't have police scanners and things like that. Okay, she didn't have that type of stuff in her house, and she would say, "Kat, they're coming your way right now. I can hear them in my head. It's coming. They're coming your way, and they're arresting. They're at some big drug bust down here on this street and this street." And I'll be doggone if I didn't hear within a few minutes, "Here comes the sirens," and then the next day in the news would be big drug bust on this such and such street.
Well, she knew about it. Yeah. She
Because
was
she
probably
really
picking
did.
up the signal. She was reading it all.
She heard it, and
Good
she
God.
scared me because she used to say, "I want to dig these things out of my head. I want them out."
You can't blame her. I wouldn't want to. It's almost like sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. You want to know all this information and then you got it. It's like, it's almost like a burden in a way,
Yeah, I can vouch for that. It is, Oh my heck, Rochelle. Rochelle said that happened to her.
Mm.
No way.
Yes. Khat Hansen is a great guest. Thank you, Carlito.
You guys are so nice. Thank you. No, but I'm just a crazy lady.
Well, some people might think you're crazy, but the ones that think you're crazy are the ones that aren't in tune with with the earth, with vibration, with frequency, with the portal. Let's get into portals. We haven't talked about portals yet, and then we'll finish off. We'll finish off with the Dulce thing with Phil Schneider.
Okay, cool. I always explain to people that there are portals all over this planet. Okay, everybody wants to think that there's something rare and unique and special, and they're really not. I don't have something to demonstrate on really well, so I'm going to demonstrate on this because I did plan for this. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is just let me get it. So, okay, this is a nylon. Okay, a nylon, and it has no runs in it, right? We think that it's just, you can kind of see through it, but that's the way that it is. But if I hold this up to the light, you see all these little tiny weaves, the fabrics that go through it, right? You see how it's woven, okay? And then you hit across over here to where we actually have like some holes and some runs, okay? This is the fabric of our reality. Our reality is not solid, okay? I can pick this up and say, hey, this is solid, this ginormous big heavy thing right here is glass, and it's solid. But in reality, it isn't, okay? Because the atoms have spaces between them. They vibrate, okay? They move constantly. It looks solid. It's not, okay? So portals are everywhere on the face of this planet, okay? And actually, I want to be real truthful with people. They're even above you, in the sky above you, okay? Wow. So
that makes sense. The Bermuda Triangle with the planes, yeah.
Yeah, planes flying through and they vanish, or they'll end up in somewhere else,
They wound up 3 hours away, and they've only been flying for 40 minutes, and they don't know how they got 3 hours away, so they've obviously been through a portal.
Right. So people think that a portal is like a giant Star Trek thing, whoop, opens up and I can step through and take it to no man's land or Nordstrom's to go shopping or whatever, okay? Doesn't always work like that, although there are people that do swear that they can control the portals, okay? So myself, I'm not able to control them. Have I ever stepped into one? Yes, I have. I have did a really stupid thing and took the pictures inside the camera. Made me want to throw up for about 3 weeks, because the whole time I was inside this portal, it was like that ride on when you go to the fair, the one that where it stands up and it spins really fast and then it lays
Yeah,
over.
and the anti gravity wheel.
Yeah, talk about being in something like that. That was horrible. Okay. Um, it's kind of scary to think about that being, you could be walking along and stepping into that, you know, but it's the truth. You can. People do it all the time, and you'll hear people say, well, so and so just stepped off the curb and bam, they've disappeared, and then they appeared 10 blocks away. That's how that happens. There's a question right there that wants to know if portals and vortexes are the same thing. To me, they are, because a portal is just a doorway. A vortex is a sucking, it's like a whirlpool and pulled you down, so it does, you don't necessarily have to walk through the door. You can be sucked through the door,
Right.
So do I believe that they are different? No. I think
It's like
I
a
always
drain
say,
in a tub, right?
yeah,
Like a drain in a tub when the water comes out. It's like sucking down.
right. And it just takes you, it could take you to the same place. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, you could walk down 10 flights of stairs and open a door and be underground wherever this water
Well, that
from.
that vortex can also be a wormhole taking to another dimension as well.
Exactly. Got people talking here about shapeshifters. Sometimes these shapeshifters going back to their reality. Kind of. I've never seen a shapeshifter just step and go back. I have drugged them back to where the portal is and said, "Get your butt in there. We're not going to play this game," you know. So
True.
that's where you see all my weapons come into play, you know. But
Yeah.
I'm just one of those people. I don't. Some things I believe, and then some things I think are like disinformation that have been put out there to kind of confuse us.
There's plenty of that. This to confuse people. I think a lot of this information also too is being brought up in some of these groups to divide people, because if you divide all these people, all they're doing is, you're dividing people that don't believe in something that half the population of the world does not believe in. So all they're going to do is make everyone think that you're all crazy anyway. So we're all just crazy people all on top of it, because the
Yeah,
disinformation agents are doing their job. If they're getting everyone stirred up and worked up, they're just going to say, hey, look at these crazy people. They're fighting over Bigfoot and werewolves, and they don't even exist, but they're fighting over it, talking about blurry pictures and this and that. So we'll get them all divided, and that ruins the whole plan. So
just
that's
let
what they
it
want.
go.
Yeah.
And I see that, and I see the other thing that I see that just irritates me to no end is when they take the information and tweak it so that it's disinformation, but part good information, you know? And so
Mhm.
then they're like, wait, that didn't, no, this is how it really is. And you're left trying to explain to them that the information they've gotten is wrong, and they need to be careful. Case in point, people hunting, going out and hunting things.
Well, people are going hunting too. They go into the certain spot, and all of a sudden they just disappear. They're going through a portal, and then they're on the missing 411 list because they went to another portal, and I guess their clothes can't go with their portal, so their clothes get left behind, and that's all they find at the time. And then if they're lucky, they'll either come back to the same spot, or they'll come back to a spot nearby. They might be alive, they might not be alive from the process, because sometimes your body can't survive that
Exactly.
crazy vibrational frequency massive shift. Sometimes people just die of a heart attack because their heart can't take that. And if they do come back, they come back, and they might come back to they might disappear in Nevada, and they'll come back to out of the portal and be in Tennessee. So
Yeah,
just the
you
way it
know,
is.
and that is the way that it is. And you can come out into rock, into a solid wall of rock. You can't survive in a solid wall of rock, you know, because the atoms in it are moving too slow to vibrate, you know, so they're not vibrating at your frequency,
Yeah.
you know, to help you survive, you know, so people need to be careful. Um,
Thank you, Carlito. There's my Facebook group if anybody's interested in
yes,
joining. It's a North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. It's a Facebook group. If anybody, there's 3 questions you got to answer. Obviously, it's just basic 3 questions on every group to join up for. And there's a good amount of people. Kat's in the group. I think you're a moderator too.
yep,
So and yeah, people post a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of back and forth. Creativity and interaction between other people in the group, and pictures. A lot of videos get posted from YouTube, and I'm pretty good at doing that as well. I always try to find something interesting and post some truth on from YouTube over. But let's talk about Phil Schneider and kind of wrap it up from there.
yeah. I
Yeah, Dulce, New Mexico.
Dulce, New Mexico is one of my favorite places, um, because the Native Americans that are there have dealt with these things for so long. You know, people think that the government doing strange, bizarre experiments and housing things underneath ground and everything else is something relatively new within the last 50 years. Okay. I have news for you. No, it's not. Not at all. Okay. These guys were stuck there in this town, are stuck on this reservation there. And they have reptilians, they have steama, they have shampway, they have uh, little gray aliens. They have tall gray aliens. They have every kind of inner earth being has found its way up through Dulce. Okay. And coming through Dulce, um, it has gotten out that there are certain types of reptilians that are there, and our government, and here I'm going to get myself in trouble, is feeding them. Okay. Now think about that. All those little kids. Okay. I used to have another channel called Hoodoo Woman Speaks. Okay. And way, way, way back. And on there, I started quoting how many people go missing a year and how many people are shown to be popping back up. They're not. So, where are you going if you're not popping back up? You can't leave this earth except for being killed, or stepping through a portal, or being fed to something. Okay. I'm going to just call it what it is. So the Native Americans in this valley, in the Dulce Valley, there specifically know what is going on. And they know that they are being, vats of these body parts are being underground, being used to feed specific types of um, beings, okay, interdimensional beings. Now, Phil Schneider, to me, was fascinating. I saw a thing the other day on him too. This man talked about getting into fights with these things,
Yeah.
And
Sorry
he
about it.
was security, he was security. And he went down with his group and they literally got into a firefight. Okay. They were what's what I want to say? Outgunned,
They were
because
outgunned. Yeah.
we're using bullets and they're using
Lasers.
lasers and
He lost 3 of his
yeah,
fingers, and he showed the scar on his stomach. He said it opened him up like a fillet fish.
yeah. If you ever saw this man speak, okay, I was invited to one of his shows. When I saw him speak, okay, I was sitting there like this and I was just doing this the whole time. He unbuttoned his shirt and showed, okay. Not very many people are going to do that, okay.
No.
And to be really honest with you, it's one of the reasons why I do not shy too much about talking about my own experiences with my scars and things. Because if this man had enough guts to get up there and talk about what had happened to him and talk about these things doing that to him,
Yeah.
okay, then we need to show a little bit of respect here, because this man was not nuts. He had to pass all kinds of psychology tests, to be able to work there and to do these things and to hold the positions that he was in, you know.
Oh, that's
So
crazy too, because when he talked about before he came out and started doing these seminars, he was actually a loyal government employed
yeah,
contractor, but he started seeing things what was going on behind the scenes, and it made him fed up that he had to talk about it, because he actually stopped working for these companies that were these black operational, you don't talk about these projects kind of deals. He got out of that stuff because he could not take what was going on, because he saw what was really happening underground, and he saw people being fed to these reptilian aliens, children, blah blah blah, things that were
yeah,
happening, and it blew his mind away, and he had to talk about it, and that's why once the government got a whiff of what he was saying, they
yeah,
they made him look like he was suicided, but he wasn't, because he had catheter wrapped around his neck, catheter tubing, and he even told his wife. He told you've seen these documentaries. He even says it. He says it in a documentary. If I ever die of a suicide, I claim right now I never ever plan intentionally killing
yeah,
myself. So if I get killed as a suicide, he said it was pretty much somebody killed me, or the government came after me and did what they did. And I think Barry said 13 times they tried to tempt his
13
life.
times,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
they also killed his friend, his confidant. I think one of his close friends. They killed him first. I think 2 years before he died.
Yep.
It was his close friend that was doing the same thing that got him into it.
It's scary to think that what lengths they'll go to hide this from us, when we should be able to have access to this kind of knowledge at any point in time, you know and it's intimidating, but I think by doing these shows we educate people a little bit, and it helps, you
You know
know
what else is funny about Phil Schneider? If he talks about in this doc, because if anyone has Amazon Prime, the documentary is called Underground, and Phil Schneider's on the cover page of it. But he talks about his father was in. His father was, I think, his father was a World War II machinist and the Navy. I think it was a Navy or some kind of military entity. And they said his father could build anything from metal, whatever they gave him, he could build it all. And I'm pretty sure he mentions that his father was a transfer from Germany in the
uh,
40s. So that makes a lot of sense. And then Phil Schneider gets recruited to doing these underground projects as was he a geologist? He was a geologist. He was a gemologist. And then he was doing the surveying for these underground boring machines. And he said these things can bore 8 miles underground in an hour or something, an insane amount of things, because they have these nuclear heads that just melt the rock and turns it to silica. It makes a perfect tunnel. So, I mean,
yeah.
it's crazy.
And you're not talking about like a dingbat here. You're talking about a very well educated man,
Boat
you
captain
know
and engineer, yeah, and he was also a machinist. He can make anything.
anything he wanted. I mean, if you think about that too, they recruited this, you know um yeah, somebody said Katie said that about them.
Termite
They,
ants.
we call them ant people. So there you go.
His father was a paperclip. That's right. Yep, they brought him over from Germany.
See, so they're passing along the knowledge. They needed him to pass. So he's not just some run of the mill Joe Schmo. They
No.
used him. They used him, and for him to break to break through, this stuff, and I don't know. It's very confusing to me because I look at him as a hero. I really do,
Yeah.
and I think that people need to study this stuff and find out, because And don't just go by what you read on the internet, please, please, please,
No, not
because
everything on the internet's real.
no, it's
Do your
not.
do your homework, do your due diligence. Get the right sources and find out the right stuff. Because sometimes, like Kat just talked about earlier, there's a lot of disclaimer people, disinformation agents putting out fake stuff to make you believe it, so you can go and fight with somebody in another Facebook group and start a bunch of stuff, and before you
Yeah.
know it, they got what they wanted. They said that that's what they do all the time. It is what it is. But I think we're about an hour and a half, and I think I'm pretty good with that, Kat. What do you think?
I don't ever jabber too much. I'm sorry.
No, I love doing this with you. I think maybe every couple months we just need to gather up and do another show together, because we do a lot of good stuff and get a lot of good information out to the public. And I just love talking about these kind of things. I can go down the rabbit hole for 3 hours if you let me, but as we discussed earlier, I put my flooring down in my house today. My back is shot. My knees are shot. I'm about ready for bed. So it's 9:30 my time. I used to go to bed around 10:30 Eastern
Yeah.
time every night. It's like clockwork. I go to bed 10:30. I wake up at 5:30. It's just like I don't even need an alarm clock anymore. But
I wish
it's
I
all
could do
good.
that. I get to
But
go up to speed.
yeah, well, it's all good, but I had a really good time with you tonight, Kat, and enjoyed doing the discussion with you on all these topics. We'll have to do it again and find some other topics to discuss, and we can
Yeah,
gather some book information and some real facts, and bring it to the group and discuss it. So,
I think so too. And if you're thinking about Tom's group, join it because it
mhm.
is like the only fair group out there. You
Well,
know,
I try. Thank you, Kat. And I think Barry said he left because of arguing about something. But Barry, if you come back, I will make you a moderator. How's that sound? Is that something good enough? Festering, little chatter. I can do that for you if you want to come back. It's up to you. But I'm sorry that happened to you. I can't control everything in a group. I think it's not the biggest group. It has like 2,000 members. So, but I try to stay on top of things with admin alerts and whatnot. If there anyone tries to bully or get into an argument over something stupid, I try to get it, or I have a good amount of admins and mods to help try to stop that stuff. So if it happens, it happens. But I'm sorry that happened to you. But if you do come back, I will make you a moderator, and you can be in control of that stuff. And somebody gets into some kind of scuffle, you can block them, delete them, whatever. But I do appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Carlito, for helping me moderate this chat. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for making it a great chat tonight. And you all have a good evening. And thank you. If you could stay on for a minute, Kat, once we end the broadcast, and I'll just do a little with you, and we'll go from there. But thanks, everybody, tonight, and have a good
thank
one.
you guys.
Bye. And broadcast.